All right, let's talk about the time a movie got so big, so wild, and honestly so completely bizarre that it actually brought a multi-billion-dollar franchise to a grinding halt. This is the story of Transformers: The Last Knight and how it pretty much broke the entire Transformers universe.
I mean, really think about that. How do you actually kill a franchise that seems like it's just too big to fail? Well, as we're about to see, sometimes all it takes is one single movie that tries to be absolutely everything, all at the same time. Let's get into it.
You see, The Last Knight, the fifth movie in the series, wasn't supposed to be just another sequel. Oh no. The plan was for it to kick off a whole new trilogy, a gigantic cinematic universe. But instead, it just broke. It became the film that was so overstuffed and confusing that it forced the studio to throw their hands up, scrap the whole thing, and just start over from scratch.
Now look, $600 million. Sounds like a ton of money, right? But for this franchise, it was an absolute disaster. To give you some perspective, the movie right before it, Age of Extinction, made over $1.1 billion. So this wasn't just a little dip, it was a total collapse. The Last Knight officially became the lowest-grossing film in the whole series, which was a huge red flag that audiences were just done. They were tired of the noise and they were ready for something else. And this is where the disconnect becomes so clear. Paramount had a whole writer's room, brilliant people mapping out years of interconnected movies. The ambition was huge, but the reality? The movie was such a critical and financial failure that they had to abandon everything. Literally 1 year later, they released Bumblebee, a totally different kind of film. Smaller, more heartfelt, basically a soft reboot that started a fresh storyline. They pivoted, and they pivoted hard.
So how did it go so spectacularly wrong? Well, it all starts with the story. Instead of giving us a straightforward action movie, The Last Knight decided to rewrite all of human history and weave the Transformers into this massive secret conspiracy that stretches all the way back to the Dark Ages.
Okay, get this. The film basically tells us that the legend of King Arthur is a lie. Merlin wasn't a wizard. Nope, he was just some guy who happened to find a bunch of Transformers hiding out. These 12 ancient knights gave him a super powerful alien staff and even combined into a giant three-headed dragon to help him win a battle. And if that wasn't enough, we also find out that Transformers fought in World War II, and this whole secret history has been completely covered up for centuries.
So who was covering it all up? A secret society called the Order of Witwickens. And yes, you heard that right, they're named after Sam Witwicky from the first few movies. This ancient order, whose last living member is played by Sir Anthony Hopkins of all people, has been secretly guiding human history all this time, just to keep the truth about the Transformers under wraps.
But you know, if a secret robot knight conspiracy going back to Arthurian legend wasn't quite enough for you, the movie's main plot involved a plan to literally eat the planet Earth. The stakes were, shall we say, pretty high.
And here it is. This is the movie's single biggest, most bananas, universe-breaking twist. Earth is not just a planet. It is actually the dormant body of Unicron, the legendary planet eater and the ultimate enemy of the Transformers. And just to prove it, these giant mechanical horns start bursting out of the ground all over the world because this ancient evil is waking up. So the main villain, a Cybertronian sorceress named Quintessa, comes up with a plan. Let's see if I have this right. Step 1, she brainwashes Optimus Prime and turns him into the evil Nemesis Prime. Step 2, she sends him to Earth to find that magic staff from the King Arthur story. Why? Because Stonehenge is apparently the ignition key for the entire planet, and with that staff, she can literally drain the life out of Earth to rebuild Cybertron. It's a lot to take in.
So after all that cosmic craziness, how is Optimus saved from being a bad guy? Well, in the big final fight, just as he's about to finish off Bumblebee, his oldest friend, Bumblebee, who hasn't been able to speak for 5 movies, finally says his name in his own voice. And just hearing his friend's true voice is enough to snap Optimus out of it. A plot point a decade in the making finally pays off. With a story this packed and lore this complicated, the big question was, would anyone actually show up to see it? And well, the film's release gave a very fast, very brutal answer. It brought the entire franchise right to the edge of a cliff.
The financial side of things was just brutal. With a budget over $200 million, Paramount reportedly lost more than $100 million on this thing. It wasn't just a miss. For a franchise that was once a license to print money, this was a full-blown box office bomb. The audience had spoken, and they were saying that bigger definitely wasn't better anymore.
And the critics? They were not kind. The film has a painful 16% on Rotten Tomatoes. The general consensus basically calls it noisy and shallow. It was a critical beatdown that really just confirmed what a lot of fans were already feeling. The series had become all flash and no substance. It lost the heart that made people fall in love with it in the first place.
The fallout from all this was immediate. The failure of The Last Knight in 2017 led directly to the release of Bumblebee in 2018, a film everyone praised for its focus, its charm, its smaller scale, everything The Last Knight wasn't. By the time Rise of the Beasts came out, it was official. The chaotic, convoluted timeline of those first 5 films was completely gone.
So why do we make of The Last Knight? Was it an ambitious attempt to do something epic that just didn't land? Or was it just a cautionary tale about what happens when a franchise gets so big it collapses under its own weight? I don't know. But in the end, it was a blockbuster that tried to include everything, except maybe a reason for us to care.